them in, feel free to, anytime we can just make sure we address stuff as it comes up. What I'm going to do today is just give you guys a little overview of LivePlan, why we use it, what we use it for, how to get through some of the sections, and just cover some of the common questions that we hear from folks like you out there in the real world using this stuff. So I'm just going to give you the biggest sort of like 30,000-foot view here from the starting point here. After you log into LivePlan, you get to this section. You're asked a couple simple questions, whether you're starting business, with a start date in the past, or whether you want to do basic or simple financials. Those are things you can always change over here in this options guy here. This little gear here will always let you change anything about the plan that you're working on. So don't think too hard about those. Just choose whatever's obvious. And then you'll come here to this plan section. I just want to give you an overview. The plan tab, if you want to write a full business plan, you start here at the plan tab, you make your way all the way through this outline, you get to the end, and you've got yourself a business plan that should be ready to enter into any competition, ready to walk into a bank and ask for a loan with, ready to walk into your SBA or SBDC offices, your SCORE offices, whatever you've got there, and ask for help with your business. This will help anyone understand the nature of the business and the financial plans that you've got going on. Over here to the left is the pitch, and this takes a little less time to get through. The pitch is a great way to outwardly communicate your business idea. You can publish it to a web page that's private for you and custom for you, and you can send it to, an incubator. It's good for startup weekends. It's good for sharing the idea.
Competition.
It's good for this particular competition. Bailey, you can remind me what exactly they need to do to finish this. And over here on the right, the financials are actually part of the plan process. You can see everything that are in this financial section are also down here in the financial plan, financial statement section. The schedule gives you some milestones that you can set along the way, and the scoreboard is probably not for anyone on this call, but is more for the management process on an ongoing basis of that business once you have revenue coming in the door. So that's the overview of what LivePlan has to offer. At any time, you can always click this button here to manage your users. What that lets you do is share the work that you're doing on the plan with anyone. By share, I mean you can share your plan by hitting this button here, add or edit users. But sharing means that two different things. One, you can either be a guest on someone else's plan, as you can see here, and a guest has the right to look at and leave comments on any given plan that you share them on. But a contributor, this is important to know, if you have like a business partner or a mentor who wants to come in and edit the plan, the contributor has the exact same access to the plan that you share them on as you do as the account holder. So just keep that in mind. So again, if you have a business partner, a co-writer, the contributor is there for you. If you have somebody who just wants to come in and get reading, get some comments in on the plan, the guest is that person for you. So let's just take a look at that plan there. We can hit back or go into it from here. At any given time, you can always see the number of plans you've got. I'm doing this wrong. You should probably not use it.
That's okay.
Listen, yes, it's okay with you?
I think it's okay.
All right, solid.
No big deal.
Listen, thanks, Bailey.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it. The cool thing about the business plan is you can kind of do it any way you feel like. At any given time, if you're not sure what a section is going to contain, if you're not sure what to throw into it, you can always skip it, come back to it. You can start from sections that you feel like are the low-hanging fruit, but the way I'm going to do it, you can actually start from the pitch if you want. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to start in the plan section. I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. So let's just say that's what you decide to do as well. You can see here at any given section, in this case the executive summary, if this wasn't here, I'd be right in the edit screen. But as I have edited this already, you can see here this blue line on the left. What that means is that's exactly what's going to appear in the plan. If there were comments down here, they would appear underneath here. But anything within this blue line is exactly the way in which it's going to appear in the plan. Now let's look at the edit mode. You can see here it's a very simple text editor. Anyone who's opened Microsoft Word or written text in their lives probably recognize what's going on here. We're going to say that there's pretty limited options, and that's on purpose. We don't want you being a little too crazy on the fonts. Don't want you adding 16 colors or going too wild on anything like that. But the important thing here is that whatever you type in here is going to be sort of like attributed to this section. So this is the what we sell section. Each section is going to have instructions. It's going to have examples, meaning examples from real business plans that are anonymized, so you can't find these just show you how other people have dealt with each individual section and each individual problem that each section applies. So, use these instructions, use these examples. You can always rename and edit. If you need to add more, you can add more here based on the competition requirements. But really get through this and think through each section. Apply the thought that each section requires. And the goal here is to really just consider the notion of this business that you're going to be working on. If you need to add an image, this is the other sort of main feature to consider. You just literally upload it, drag it in here, and you're going to be presented with 3 different options, small, medium, or large. Those options are just going to ensure that those images get put in line in a sort of beautiful format, and that you don't ever need to worry about text formatting or indenting or any Microsoft Word expert stuff like that. As soon as you're done writing, hit I'm done with this section. Again, this blue line on the left means you're wrapped and you're good, and this is what's going to appear in the plan. But of course, you can always come back in and edit anytime. And this is really the beauty of this application. Like I said, if I know what I sell, but I'm not really ready to write the who we are section, that's okay. Go ahead and keep it moving. Keep moving through this entire section. Stuff like the financial summary may present some problems. My recommendation is you get into these pieces, especially some of these. This is a little more difficult for a lot of people as you approach it for the first time. When you hit the financial summary, it actually is asking you to summarize a lot of the work that you're going to do in the future. Go ahead and put something in here. Think through what the question is asking. Think through what this instruction is asking you. In many of these cases, for example, in the Who We Sell To piece, I believe we've got some video content from our founder, Tim Berry. Watch the video, but put something in there, and feel free to mark it as, maybe this is in progress still. I personally love to have something in every section, and just make sure that I, go through and edit and re-edit as I'm going through the process. Other people work differently, and we want to support all sorts of different work styles. You can see some of these more, heavily trafficked sections in terms of questions. We've got video advice here too, so just click that. Sit back and watch the 2-minute video. A lot of times, what we're going to give there is advice based on plans that we've seen, and sort of hiccups that we've seen along the process, and we want to make sure you address those sort of common mistakes through your process as well. And don't reinvent the wheel here. Just get your plan together.
Modify the wheel.
Just modify the wheel to fit your needs. So anyway, as you go through all these initial sections, you're going to see the text editing is the same, the outline is the same, the advice and the examples throughout each section are the same. Again, it's my personal preference just to get through each piece and make sure you've got something in each of these sections. A lot of people might want to start in the target market section, for example. Just go ahead and do whatever works best for you, and then always make sure that you're going to come through and be able to review any sections that you've missed or any sections that are required. One thing I would hate to do is if your contest says, hey, you've got to have the market overview listed and in full, make sure you've got all those pieces checked off before you go. One easy way to do that, by the way, is either to surf through like I'm doing right now, or you can always come over here to the print section. The print section is just going to export to PDF. So you can always just print it to PDF and, again, go through that same checklist that I was talking about, making sure you've got all the sections correct, make sure everything looks good in its final format. Before you hit the export button, you can always just change the look and feel of this plan. You can see this is a nice green look. Here's a nice gray look. Yeah. Here's a look that if you're working for Caterpillar you might like.
Maybe.
Not my favorite. I actually like the boring textbooky one, so I'll let you guys decide what you like. But anyway, you can also fill out the cover page. But that's another great way to just, again, make sure you've got everything you need to succeed in this contest and succeed, as a business planner. I'm going to jump down now. All these sections in the interim, all the way up to the financial plan, are basically the same in terms of the approach and in terms of your work that goes into them. As soon as you get into the financial plan, on one hand, everything changes, but on the other, this is where I think the power of LivePlan really comes into play. This is where you would, without LivePlan, be opening sort of Excel or, some other sort of tool like that, and really, struggling. I always thought it was a struggle to get through these sections, with just an Excel sheet or just a forecast table. You'll see as you come into these sections that when you're done with them, first of all, the tables, they're all built for you. You never have to worry about alignment, spacing or anything like that. You also never have to worry about these calculations being correct, which is frankly beautiful. The other thing that you never need to worry about is that we're going to auto-generate these graphs for you. And also you can always add in this summary, which I recommend everyone does for each of these sections. You can see here, I'll give you an example right now, but 3 large sales promotions each year. This is a bike shop that we're talking about that we're looking at right here. And the first thing that anyone's going to ask when they look at this graph is why are we fluctuating? Is this a seasonality thing? And the answers are written out down here. So again, the graph can tell you a part of the story, the text can tell you a part of the story, and the actual numbers tell you the rest. So let's go ahead and look at what it looks like to edit these pieces. Again, if you had started from scratch here, this is what you all see the first time you come into these sections. The sales forecast, again, one of the most daunting things when you're just looking at an Excel sheet, but all we're asking you is one question at a time. In this case, what do you sell? What is the thing that you sell? If you're offering a service, you're still offering a thing for sale. So, if it's massage service or consulting work, go ahead and add a line item per thing that you do, per thing that somebody can purchase from you. You can see in this case, this actually, in a way, these are mostly products, but this last one is technically a service. So feel free to mix and match as you see fit. It's right now here, though. If you are, let's say, a clothing store, and I know probably not all you guys are, but if we just had an example of this recently. If you're a clothing store and you're selling pants, put all the pants into 40 brands of pants. I think it says up here in the tips, yeah, keep this list short. Do not make this list 40 items, 50 items long.
Corduroy pants.
Yeah, please don't. Create a more confusing presentation, a less summary view of your business, and also make it harder to edit everything in the future. Again, this is a plan. It's not a full sort of a record of your business. You're going to have that once you're going in in your maybe QuickBooks product in the future. So don't worry about that here. This is really just to get you a good forecast and a good view of how this business could run and hopefully will run. Again, let's take a look step by step. So you write in your new bicycles. There's 2 options in this section. How much overall revenue will you get from this product or service? Now, this is asking us how many dollars do we see from bicycle sales per month and then per year into the future years. I'm going to say personally, I don't like this view. I always use unit forecasting myself unless there's some specific reason to use dollars. Between the two is a really important point. As I'm working here, if I decided, well, no, it's actually probably more reasonable for me to forecast dollars, all that work I'm going to do in one section or another is always available to me. I'm never losing any of the work I'm doing by switching sections. So this is really important. And again, you can just see here, this business is actually predicting a fairly flat revenue for the actual sales of the new bicycles. So you can imagine all that other fluctuation over the year comes from these other pieces. That's great. This is good to know, and this is exactly the kind of thing that people who are looking at your plan want to know about how you perceive your business. These kinds of questions, again, one question at a time. What is the cost? What percentage does this service cost you, product or service cost you? You can also make this a flat rate, and you can make it change over time. Cost over good is actually a remarkably difficult question for some businesses to ascertain, to really dive into. Again, I would really recommend put something in here. Figure something out that works for you for now, and feel free to come back in and edit. I'm going to show you how easy it is to edit stuff afterwards, and also how easy it is to not mess this stuff up, because we're not going to let you mess this up, so you don't have to worry about it. But for right now, I'm going to say, hey, it cost me 68%. Oops. It cost me 68% of that cost of the bicycle to provide that to the to the customer. What does that mean? Well, it probably means I've spent maybe 50% on the actual wholesale cost, maybe 10% on the racks that it sits on, rack space spent, and then the other 12 on some other overhead piece or tags that have to hang from the bicycle or something. Whatever those items are, they go in here. Go ahead and don't include stuff like personnel required to build the bicycle or anything like that. You'll see that in the personnel table, in the rent and utilities. All those kinds of sections will have their own pieces. So again, if you overestimate or underestimate here, you can always come back to it per unit, no big deal. Go ahead and, for most of you guys, set the default here. I think for most cases, our default answers are the most common answers. And if you know that you are collecting VAT, go for it. That's great. As I wrap up each item, it's going to take me back to that initial state where I can kind of see, oh, well, hey, everything looks pretty good here. Again, that flat sales of those bicycles are looking good. I'm here in the financial section. I can still edit everything as I move forward. And as you can see here, these yearly figures, fiscal year 1, 2, and 3 here, I've got a growth. And that's, it's from growth of bicycle sales. So that's actually how I entered everything in, and that's, what I'm hoping for. The rest of the sales forecast, items or services that you're selling, and then you get to the end, the rest of this whole table is generated for you. And I think that's really the beauty of working in LivePlan is your gross margin as a total calculation across all these products is always calculated for you. I'm going to show you later. The cool thing here is your gross margin, of course, extends into many of the tables. In fact, I'll just show you that right now. If I look at this plan view and I'm doing this full financials, the cash flow table, the cash flow assumptions, and the financial statements like the P&L, which is a major piece investors and plan judges look at, the P&L table is going to show numbers like your gross margin. Well, sometimes I'll get an advisor who says, well, for a bicycle business, most gross margins are closer to 75%. I don't really know if 60 or 47 in this case are reasonable. I might be tempted to work backwards and say, okay, well, I'm going to work up to that number. I'm going to click here. I'm going to change that value, and then I'm going to, backwards calculate everything. Again, if I personally was working in Excel, I might be tempted to do that. LivePlan's not going to let you do that. We're not going to let you put in erroneous or miscalculated values. In fact, in all cases, you're always going to be brought back to the sections in this financial piece that generated the table. So in this case, you're seeing, okay, well, this is the full table where I got it from. If I want to edit that, I need to edit it in the sales forecast, so please do so. But again, there's no way to make any mistakes on that front. The only mistakes you can make are assumptions that LivePlan can't catch. And again, so we're going to be having those thought exercises in the instructions in each section. Again, a thing, for example, that we can't catch are, if you anticipate selling 400,000 bicycles in the next month, it's going to be up to you to make the determination that that's probably a bit high. It's not, LivePlan cannot sort of compare you to the industry average on the fly. We're going to look to you to sort of assume and make these good assumptions, but we are going to try and give you as much guidance as we can throughout the process. Again, you can even just see here from that first page of the sales forecast, just some of those tips and some of those basic things that we see people doing over time. Again, keep the list short, dozens make it, difficult to predict, these kinds of things. So please keep all that in mind as you work through this. And let's just take another look at one of these other financial sections as we go down. But the model that the sales forecast puts forth, the idea of asking one question at a time, the idea of piece by piece building together this financial plan, and the idea of avoiding errors is going to cascade through each of these next sections. The personnel plan is incredibly important in terms of both describing the management team and also talking about who is going to do exactly what is going to get done. So again, we've got this table already built out. You can see here I've got, but all this started from a very simple starting point, which is just, again, a form that I'm looking at. So, like, tell us about this employee. Valerie here, is her name Pete? Is that like a bicycle joke? Yeah.
It's a bicycle.
I think we've made a bicycle joke here. I feel pretty good about that. All right. Anyway, so you can see we've got a bunch of options here, but again, question by question, just answer one at a time. And I got to encourage you again, if you don't really know, go ahead and throw something in. See what it looks like in this table. If it looks crazy, go ahead and put something in that you feel like is good, and then show it to one of your mentors, your peers, your teachers, your friends, anything. What does it look like per year? Is $32,000 a reasonable salary? Are they working full time? Do they get paid different amounts? Place start. Just all of these kinds of questions that, again, very typical questions to ask in here, build back into this final table. And you can see now Valerie is just represented now by a bunch of numbers. And again, this looks a little daunting if you open all this up in Excel, but it's very easy as you open it here in LivePlan to just kind of come back in, say, okay, does everyone have funny names in here? Jean-Baptiste. There's going to be someone named Jean-Baptiste on the call and funny names. Someone have, but anyway. So as you can see, Jean-Baptiste here has the sort of month-to-month salary instead of the normal sort of yearly salary, which is totally fine. As you can imagine, these costs will be extended into the final P&L table also. But if this employee was going to work, heavily during the heavy seasons, you can really easily reflect that here. Obviously, you can also reflect increases over time. And contract hire is another easy way to represent the differences between a proper full-time employee and a contract hire there. So again, very simple questions when you do them one by one. A lot of times you'll hit one of these questions and you'll need to stop. You'll need to think about it. You'll need to move away from LivePlan and come back in with the answer. That's totally fine. We really recommend that you do that, frankly. Again, when we see this work in incubators, even in short term incubators, people will often hit a section they don't know the answer to, get up, scramble, run, everyone go find these answers, go talk to customers, go talk to common, people in the industry, go talk to, other mentors, find that answer, come back into LivePlan and enter it back in. One of the cool things about LivePlan, by the way, if you're working here in the plan or the financial section, if I'm here in this personnel plan section and I log out right now, the next time I log in, I'm going to be brought right back to this section. We do that for that very reason, because we know a lot of you guys are going to hit some of these sections and just need to go do some work off-site. And so that's the reason for that. But again, all of these financial sections, for me as a non-financial expert, really make this process remarkably easy. They make it possible for a person like me to get through this entire section, to get through the entire process of creating a financial plan, a P&L, on my own, or with some mentoring or with partners. And then the cool thing is, again, I don't need to spend a lot of time building tables, making sure the graphs are right, because all of these materials are generated for me and thrown into this plan in a seamless and sort of well-formatted way. So that's great. Again, as you get through all these pieces, you'll start to get to the point where some of these pieces don't even ask you any more questions. And actually, cash flow statement was a good example of that. You don't even really edit anything in here. All of these components come from other sections, which is great. The appendix is another great way to get some of these other materials in here. And I want to show you all, just for sort of our purposes, anything in here in this entire outline, because I said when you get from the beginning and move to the end, you're going to have a full business plan. Some folks we know out there in the world are going to want you to have different sections than we already sort of offer here, and that's totally fine. If your person you're working with doesn't want to see a loan and investment table, or if that doesn't apply to you, feel free to delete it. This entire section is edited by moving these pieces up and down. And you can see I can reorder these pieces just by dragging and dropping them. It's all very sort of easy and expected. I can also retitle the personnel plan if for some reason, if my partner or investor wants to call it a personnel table or employee plan. That's totally fine. Go for it.
And that also makes it really great for competitions, because there's certain things that they're going to want to see in there that you can customize and say, okay, I want to highlight my executive summary, and I don't really want to talk about making it happen right now. I just want to talk about my target market. So that's what's really great in LivePlan, is it's going to help you do that. Absolutely.
Another thing you'll see in the add more sections in each individual section, sometimes you'll see some sections that we know have come up a lot historically. So if I come over here and say add more, you might see one or two items like product diagrams or product descriptions, in this case objectives. This is actually, I believe, from our experience in competition. So you might see sections in there that are commonly added, and that's fine. But again, if you needed something in here like ADA approval or engineering diagrams and build orders or something like that, please add it. Especially if your mentors agree that it's appropriate here.
Great for presenting also. Let's put that in there.
Yeah, this is absolutely great for presenting. But you can see here all those financial projections I just put all that time in to are now summarized here in a very easy year-over-year sort of sense. Now, for me, again, I'm just talking personally, I personally find it much more difficult to do financial projections in a summary format than to do the full worksheet style that we just went through. If you feel comfortable, actually dive in and start here. Frankly, I also find it much harder to summarize my entire business in 140 characters, which is what I'll show you, that's what we limit you to here, before I have everything fully thought out and fully on paper. Now, if you guys, anyone on this call, if you guys have enough confidence, if you guys already have something worked out, if you have a 5-slide presentation, that may translate right into there. And you may want to start in the pitch section first and move on to the plan. That's totally fine. Of course, we offer that option. I want to show you just what the pitch section looks like in edit mode. The view gives you that preview that we were just looking at, but the edit mode really takes you in and dives in. So you got your company name. Great, easy. Again, one question at a time. What's the essence of that company? Again, to me, this can be, sometimes you can pine over this for hours. Just, this could, the wordsmithing here, you've only got 53 characters remaining. Oh my God, it can be stressful. Again, you use your own method, use your own best judgment how to get through this, but we limit this on purpose. We limit this for the reason of making the pitch not only succinct and focused, but also for you to be able to give a 5 or 10 minute presentation based on the document you create by literally just going top to bottom in the final product. So sometimes it seems limiting, but we're doing it on purpose here. Again, problem worth solving. This is a great way of approaching what it is, why does your company exist? What's the purpose of this thing that you're working on? And here's the solution. So there is a problem in the market. What is it that you're bringing to the table? And again, these sales channels, which can be described or given in a short list, we're only providing you these 2 options. This is what folks expect. This also keeps you clear and concise and focused when you stand up in front of folks or when you email folks with these ideas and this opportunity. Things are basically fairly straightforward as you go through. The target market obviously generates this cute graph for you. You can really, again, the only sort of errors you can make here are judgment errors. And again, that's where your mentors, your teachers, your friends, your peers, your partners all come in. In this case, you can see there's 37,000 prospects. One common error we'll see in this section is, you'll say your target market is, for a shoe store, all Americans with feet. No target market is all Americans with feet. It's some smaller segment of that. So please go through and give thoughtful input into this, so you don't get so you don't turn people off when they're reading your plan. But again, all you have to do is provide that thoughtful input. You don't need to provide anything that builds this graph, that formats this table. And when you're done with everything, the coolest part about this, frankly, is you hit this share button, and you can see this one's already published, is what we call it. But there would be another green button here if I hadn't published it. What that gives you is just this URL. I can now send this URL, anyone in a bank, any one of my professors, anyone in the world. And again, you can see it's not a URL. It's got this hashed out sort of URL segment to it. But from beginning to end, you can see it's very clean, very beautiful, easy to read. And again, I can send this out to anyone right now, and they can get a great, clear idea for my business. The cool thing here is what a great way to get started on a conversation. Read through this, work with a potential, contest judge, read through with a potential, attendee at my presentation, a potential loan investor later in life, whatever works here, and then let them get interested in this business. And then have that full plan waiting for them when they come and ask you more deep questions. Again, that's the power of this pitch page, and it's really just a beautiful way to really pull together that whole idea and share it outward, in an outward way. So that's the pitch, and again, I'm going to look at the pitch as kind of the outward communication. The plan as, again, that binding document, that end-to-end piece that really is flexible, but is also a complete view of all your business activities, everything that you're going to be doing. The financials, again, are part of that plan. We can take a quick look at both the schedule and the scoreboard, but I don't want to spend much time because I don't think that's really relevant to most of the folks on this call. As far as the schedule goes, this is a very typical sort of calendar approach. You set your milestones and you work on it here. There's a couple places, and I think you saw it in the pitch here, where these milestones will actually appear. So you can see the upcoming grand opening, new milestone there. as these come in, they populate both in the plan and in the pitch. And that's great, but it can also be a great way of working with advisors or partners to ensure that you are on track in terms of your progress over time. And the scoreboard is really, again, a way of saying, okay, all that work I just put into that plan, what do I do with it once I'm up and running? Now, this entire section can synchronize my QuickBooks data, as you can see here, with my plan data, and that's what these two graphs are. These are actual results versus planned results. Now, that's pretty cool, but it might not apply to everyone here because you might all be earlier stage. If it does, great, and you can follow up with any questions there, but I wanted to make sure you understood the value of pulling together a rather complete financial plan is not just to enter and win a contest or go to a loan and get that loan, but it's also a great way to manage an ongoing business. You can see here this gross margin month over month fluctuates. Why does it fluctuate? When do we expect it to fluctuate, and when do we actually expect it to sort of be higher or lower? Part of these questions and why we would ask these questions are generated by the notion of having this plan in place. If I didn't have this plan in place, all I would have was my current finances and my past finances and no idea how I got there or where I'm going in the future. So it's a really powerful way of running a business, but again, probably not the sort of like here and now of what everyone here is focusing on. So I want to go ahead and open the floor up to questions here. I've got, I can still spend a little more time kind of looking at some of these other finance pieces, but please go ahead and type in or however else you can do it. I think over in the chat pane or in the questions side. Bailey, how do we look for questions so far?
Well, I've got quite a few right here. One of them, how long does it usually take a company to get this taken care of? So from the business plan perspective, how long does it take to usually get a plan done? And then how long does it take to get a pitch done? Which is kind of a trick question for us, I guess.
No, it's a great question, and it's certainly a valuable thing to consider. We've seen people work on really complicated, high-end business plans for 3 to 6 months. We've also seen people who really understand their business and who really understand exactly their target market, their idea, where they're going, and be able to pull through the most basic financial plans, oftentimes in a couple weeks and under a month. And again, sometimes those plans, just have, sort of as much, detail as is currently needed, and then you go in and add more detail after that. The pitch, on the other hand, some people have finished that in as quick as 30 minutes, and that's, it's an amazing feat. Again, if you're knowledgeable about where you're going, what you're doing, frankly, if you've filled out the plan before, you can probably finish it pretty quickly. Other folks, it depends. You might hit a section again where you don't know the answer right now, and so are we including the time to, go walk around and interview 6 potential customers? Well, probably not, but if you do, that could take up to, days or weeks.
Right, and I mean, I've talked to a couple customers, and I've heard people that said, I got my plan done in 3 days because I sat down, I busted it out, and now it's ready to get it taken care of. So,
Busted it out.
But they said that. They said they busted it out, which, if that's your verbiage, then I like it.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really up to you. If you really want to get into it, you can get it done in as little time as you want to, within reason. Yeah, and so here's another question. On the scoreboard, Are we back in here? I think we're back in here. Send us an IM, guys. Let us know if you can hear us. Sorry about that. Oh, all right, we are back. Okay. Sorry for the delay. Sorry for those audio issues. We're in kind of a new building, so we've got those things that sometimes pop up. As I was saying with the scoreboard, is it more of a budget to your actual kind of analysis, or how would you summarize the scoreboard, Peter?
Yeah. Well, it's a big question. Yeah. Well, I think So I think the summary idea of the scoreboard, the idea of the scoreboard as a whole, is twofold. One, there's more purpose to writing the plan than there is to than just sort of having the plan created, having a contest won, having they can't see this. Sort of having the loan gotten by the bank. The purpose of writing a plan is really to allow your business to give your business a way of knowing where it's supposed to be going, to get some milestones for the future, to get some time to reach. So what do you do with that once you've planned everything? And that's really where we came up with this idea of this scoreboard. Is what purpose does that plan have once it's done? And the real answer to that is you can compare it to your what's in your actual bank and where your actual bank account has been, your number have been. And the value to that is, if I as a CEO walk into my board, this month I sold 10 units, and the board says, great, well, last month you sold 9, so that's good, right? Well, who knows? I mean, is that good? I have no idea. What were you planning on doing? Where are you planning to go next month? And again, I use graphs like this as the ultimate example of that value. If you look at the sales forecast here, and you look at kind of the actuals versus the planned amounts, this month, if you kind of came in at this month here in November, let's say, or even at September, from September to October, you might say, well, this was not a good month. But knowing that there's a plan to recuperate, maybe this is just a seasonality, that's actually really important, not just for a board to know, but for employees, lenders, mentors, anyone to know as well. So, really knowing where you are, but also where you're going, that's the power of the scoreboard, and it's what adds intelligence to this notion of to the idea of just having your finances from today and through the past.
Mm-hmm. Kind of tells you where you're going almost. So to the personnel section, is there an equity breakdown for those guys?
Yes, a good question. So we're not going to include that because the goal with the personnel plan is really to show the cost of the people, but also list out the actual employees that are sort of anticipated to be involved in the production or be involved in the these early stage sort of pieces. You could easily describe the equity components here in the personnel plan description, and I would definitely recommend, if that's an important part to you of how that person is going to be. For example, if I had Valerie D over here, if this person was basically being paid in equity, if there was some sort of agreement on sweat equity in these earlier stages, then absolutely I should have a note down here, because this person's probably going to look underpaid. What that's going to result in is somebody, a contest judge, a lender, a potential partner in the future, are all going to look at this table and ask, well, why is this person's either not good at their job, or you're paying them way too little, and that means your plan is at fault. Well, no, if you just come down here and say, okay, I get it, they're getting paid in this equity, they're in agreement, they've signed maybe a one-year contract that allows them, a 15% stake if they get through that first year, that's great. But we don't want to represent the numbers of equity, because who knows what the value of that will be. So it's actually easier to write that in text than it is in dollars.
So just one more question here. What if somebody's stuck in their plan, like they don't know where to start, they don't know what thing to put in there? Is there a resource area for them to go to find maybe like sample plans, for example?
Well, sure. Over here on the top right, there is a help and resources section. We do have many more sample plans. And these plans that we've accumulated over the years and they come in, a variety of industries for sure. If you're trying to make a coffee shop, that's actually a popular sort of, plan style. So you can actually take a look at a number of different approaches as you go through that process. Many of these were accumulated over the years so that the formatting is actually different, and some of them are a little more, I guess, what I would call old school than the way we plan. Be a little more lengthy in terms of their financials or some of their descriptions. Most people nowadays don't do 30-page plans, but rather, 20 or 30 page. So, that's the trend that we're working with now. But some of these may be from a few years ago. That said, all the thought and the, sort of issues that come up with, putting together a farm and food production business plan are still the same. So it's very helpful to look through these. There are also other great resources in LivePlan. Certainly other sort of helps and documents up here. I will say though, I hope, and I find myself that in many cases, again, if I'm, this is a kind of a writer's block question as well. If I'm really stuck on the what we sell question, oftentimes it's great just to come in here, read this directions again, check out the examples that don't do that. Check out these examples we give to you, and maybe, walk away from the computer. Maybe call somebody. Maybe, talk to a mentor, a friend, and just say, hey, I've been thinking about this, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to write here. And then go ahead and come back into the piece and write that way too. So, yeah, we do want the videos, the examples, the other resources that we provide all to be sort of standalone and good to go. But the reality is sometimes you just hit that writer's block moment, and you need to just kind of like step outside of what you're working on and find a new way to look at it. And we definitely recommend that as well. Again, this will be here waiting for you when you get back.
Will indeed. All right, so I think that's the last of our questions. If anybody else has any more, we'll give you a second to seriously type those in or type in wait, no.
Seriously.
Quickly, whatever. But other than that, I think we're good to go. Is there anything else that we need to point out in here? Cover the plan, cover the pitch, got a little bit of scoreboard in there.
Yeah, it feels good.
All right.
If you got multiple plans, always feel free. All of your accounts will have the ability to create multiple plans. You can see this. Garrett's Bike Shop is just a little bit different from the University CycleWorks plan. So do feel free to, if you got multiple business ideas, dig in.
Multiple plans.
Go for it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining our webinar, and we'll catch you next time.